Haas-Bioroid is the corporation revolving around Bioroids and efficiency, and this deck illustrates very well. We have built a slow Glacier deck. Glacier referring to the fact that this deck is very much based on its ice, leaning on it to defend its centrals and remote servers properly, and to tax out the runner, which means to force them to lose a lot of money in encountering and breaking the ice. To do this, to support the somewhat expensive ice in this deck, it runs a lot of economy cards, such as the campaigns and the route in the assets section that you can see in the deck list. And after some time during the game, when you feel like you have enough money and ice accumulated, you can start scoring out of the remote by installing and advancing your agendas, ideally with an ash in the server to protect it. So that's the general game plan of this deck. Because it requires you to get so much ice on the remote, it will typically take longer to play out because it is meant to be a slower deck. It is very, very good at taxing the runner out because it has some of the best ice in the game. These ice are not only expensive for icebreakers to break, they also carry severe punishments if the runner fails to break them, typically forcing them to the runner to lose credits or trash their cards, or a combination of both. This is one reason why runners are very scared to run against you early on when you have that fewer ice, because they have to worry about the ice doing nasty stuff to you. They don't just end the run, they pack a punch as well. Not to mention that the agendas that you score will complement your asset-based economy. They typically give you a good amount of money, such as the corporate sales team you see on the screen, which gives you 10 credits slowly as you score it, meaning that yes, you get a refund on the money you took to advance it, and some spare change to boot. Now, this deck is not without its weaknesses. It is very susceptible to agenda flooding, as is the case with many slower decks. Agenda flooding refers to the situation where you're stuck with a lot of agendas in hand because you're not really scoring in the early game. Agendas will tend to clog up in your hand, which is a really bad thing, as the runner can simply run HQ a couple of times to steal those agendas. This is where Miraju and Wampoa Reclamation come into play. To mitigate the possibility of agendas clogging up your hand, you can send them back into your deck with these two cards, and that will be quite crucial if you don't want to lose before you win. Bioroid Ice can be clicked through. This is another weakness of this deck. Even though the Ice has very good stats, it's high strength, and has lots of subroutines, they can be clicked through, meaning that the runner can spend clicks to break subroutines on most of your Ice. This can be a problem if you don't have enough ice on your server. As you know, the runner has 4 clicks each turn, so they can only click through so many of your ice. This is another reason why you want to stack as many ice as you possibly can on your remote before going to score, necessitating some use of icebreakers from your opponent. Finally, this deck has some trouble with scoring the bigger agendas, those that require 4 or 5 advancement counters. Whenever you advance something in your remote, it is quite clear that those are agendas. If you look at the deck list, there are no ambushes of any sort. So once you start advancing cards, the runner knows for sure that they are agendas, and if they can contest the server, meaning that if they have enough resources to get into the server, they will steal your agenda. So this can be a problem, but we'll show you a solution to that later on. So some interesting lines of play you can make with this deck. One of the interactions that this deck revolves around is to fork the runner into a hard spot by setting up a win-win situation for yourself. So usually what you do is to protect your economy assets with Bioroid Ice. So cheap Bioroid Ice are the best for this, such as the Fairchild one you see on the screen. This puts the runner in a bind. They can choose to run and trash your economy card. However, if they do so, you get to trigger your identity, because this necessitates passing through your ice, your Bioroid Ice, meaning that you get to trigger your identity and get a discount on one of your other ice on the board. Now, if they choose not to run and trash your economy asset, well, you're going to get the money from the said economy asset, which fuels your economy either way. So this is how you are able to establish your money, even if the runner, no matter what the runner decides to do. And this is a very powerful way to get your ice going, since they are moderately expensive. Now, another interesting line of play is using Jeeves Model Bioroids, which is one of the key cards in your deck that allows that allows you to circumvent the fact that the runner can see when your agendas are coming up. So as we mentioned earlier, one of the problems is that when the moment you start advancing your agendas, the runner can react by running said agendas to steal them. Well, G-Smarter Bioroids allows you to score 4 advanceable agendas such as Corporate Sales Team without telegraphing the advancement tokens. By pre-installing both cards on a certain turn, on the next turn, you can triple advance the Corporate Sales Team, since placing each placement of an advancement counter counts as the same action. After advancing it 3 times, you get an extra click from G-Smarter Bioroids, which allows you to place the 4th advancement counter with your final extra click, therefore scoring the Corporate Sales Team immediately without the runner giving the runner any chance to react to the fact that it's an agenda. Now you might ask, since it is pre-installed, the Corporate Sales Team is pre-installed, couldn't the runner just run it? Well, sure they could, but looking from the runner's point of view, an installed card with no advancement tokens very likely looks like an asset or perhaps an upgrade, which is something that the runner doesn't really want to run very often. There are so many of them in your deck, it can't afford to run every single one of them. Hence, it is much easier to score these agendas when you bluff them as assets or upgrades by not advancing them, and then on your next turn, placing a bunch of advancement tokens and then scoring them, giving the runner no chance to steal them, and you're giving yourself a huge advantage towards winning the game.